All right, it is January the 26th, 2024, and we're going to take a look at some of the things happening around the world in the news and what's going on as we are still continue with news coverage on Pod TV on World Edition. So let's see what some of the things are that are happening in the world. Says that the top UN court won't dismiss Israel genocide case, but stops short of ordering a Gaza ceasefire. So that is something that is going on. And of course, a lot of people will be paying attention to this world news and all along the lines. And the Kenyan court has blocked a police deployment to Haiti, I should say. So yeah, definitely to Haiti. They're saying it's illegal and invalid as they halt the deployment of police to another country of Haiti. So they have blocked that deployment. And definitely a lot of things are going on in the world. The long and bitter relationship between Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas was discussed on NPR, and I know a lot of people be trying to pay attention to how that's going and his future as well. So definitely, as Netanyahu's failings pile up, Israel's out of credit prime minister poses an even greater threat, and apparently Netanyahu must be removed, says a top former Israeli national security official. So there may be some things going on even within the government of Israel as well. And a British pianist says a viral clash with an authoritarian Chinese national badly backfired. And that's what was going on in that particular area. And we'll be seeing more folks have anything to say about that. And a Russia military analyst claims the UK was behind the uh, IL-76, I think that's what it's called, plane crash. Well, behind the plane crash, I'll just leave it at that since I'm not sure of those initials and all along those lines. But Ukraine says that Russia has not given any evidence of POWs on the downed military plane. So that's something else that was going on. And only 5 bodies were delivered to the Belgorod morgue after the mysterious Russian plane crash, according to Ukrainian intelligence. And France is set to tighten its immigration laws after court scraps some measures. So French court nixes a cushy visa deal for rich Brits, and France Constitutional Court rejects several measures in a controversial immigration law. So immigration is definitely playing a part in a number of things that are going on in the world and all along those lines. So a lot of people are paying attention to that. And by the way, China is getting into the whole confrontation around Iran and the Houthi attacks because China is urging Houthis to stop the Red Sea attacks or risk harming their business relationship. So China says it's working to de-escalate tensions in the Red Sea that have upended the global trade. So that is something that is going on, and it looks like that is something that is happening as well. And Egypt is lashing out at extremist Israeli leaders after Netanyahu says IDF must seize the Gaza Egypt buffer zone. So that is something else that's going on in the Middle East, and we'll see how folks react to that as well. And Australians are protesting British colonization on a national holiday. And definitely that is something that is going on, and that is having some conversations around patriotism in that area as well. So definitely we're seeing a lot of things going on in Australia as well. And it definitely looks like the climate threatened Tuvalu holds elections that are watched by both Taiwan and China. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news. And looks like Ecuador might be descending into gang violence. So apparently, gangs, gunmen, and the cartels are running amok as terror grips the streets of Ecuador. Even the armed force there apparently lives in fear as well. So definitely, that is something that's going on. And a South Korean lawmaker was attacked by the rock. That is something that is going on. And apparently, in that part of the world, folks were in shock after that lawmaker was treated for a head cuts after being attacked with a rock. So the lawmaker's name is Lee Hong Jin, and definitely that was taking place in Seoul. And Turkey officially approved Sweden's NATO membership bid. So Biden is urging Congress to approve Turkey F-16 sale. So definitely that is something that we're seeing, even though the Hungary parliament speaker sees no urgency in voting on Sweden's NATO ascension. So definitely Sweden's leader says he will meet with Orban to advance the NATO bid from them. So that's something else that's in the world and going on in the world as well. So definitely that's something taking place. And by the way, Alabama carried out the nation's first known execution with nitrogen gas. Apparently, the Alabama death row inmate was served steak as the last meal hours before that execution. And the EU and the UN Rights Office expressed regret for the Alabama nitrogen gas execution. And the closing arguments are to begin in the E. Jean Carroll's damages trial against Donald Trump. So we're getting ready to go into those closing arguments, and we'll see how this all plays out and what happens with that, and also if it has any impact on the Trump's ascension into the position of being the front runner, and it looks like definitely the one that will be heading into a rematch with Biden. But we'll see if any of these court cases have any impact on that or not. And a California man, Marquez Perez, was found guilty of killing a 6-year-old boy, Aiden Leos, who was on his way to kindergarten. And apparently that was in a road rage shooting. So he was found guilty, and we'll see what kind of sentencing he gets and all along that way. And Biden hits a pause on natural gas projects amid plans for carbon mega bombs. So White House is halting enormous natural gas project, and some people are saying that as a victory for the environmentalists. So that is something else that we are seeing. And Biden administration is trying to stop the Texas immigration measures, and their Governor Stitt, says that makes no sense, or all along those lines, or at least Governor Stitt, who is a different governor, because we know the Texas governor is Greg Abbott, and he's saying that apparently some people are saying that is just taking this war with the feds to the next levels, and apparently half of the U.S. governors are siding with Texas in this border dispute with Biden. So definitely that is something that a lot of people are paying attention to, even in our own immigration things as well. So definitely a number of people are looking at these stories and are making their own thoughts as well, because definitely Texas Governor Greg Abbott received the support Thursday of all but one of the nation's Republican state governors in his feud with the Biden administration over border security. So GOP governors from 25 states signed onto a joint statement in support of Abbott and the Lone Star State's constitutional right to self-defense, days after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Biden administration could remove razor wire installed by Texas along a 30-mile stretch of land near the U.S.-Mexico border in Eagle, Texas. Vermont Governor Phil Scott, who says he voted for President Biden in 2020, was the only GOP holdout, and all along those lines. So we stand in solidarity with our fellow governor, Greg Abbott, and the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences, to secure the border, the statement released by the Republican Governors Association read, and all in that space. So definitely because the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional combat duties to the states, Texas has every legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and our nation, the statement concluded. And Abbott on Wednesday proclaimed that the Texas right to self-defense supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary, and he vowed to continue to deploy this razor wire to repel illegal immigration, arguing that it's an effective deterrent against the illegal border crossings encouraged by Biden's border policy. So that is something that we are seeing. And South Dakota governor, and this is one that some people are thinking may even be a candidate to be a Trump vice president, is saying, and that being Kristi Noem, said, I'm willing to send the National Guard down there to stand alongside. And she said that on a Fox News report. And definitely, I want it to be a different arrangement this time. If we're going to enforce Texas law, and if I'm going to have the ability to use these soldiers in a way that's effective, that'll be absolutely fantastic. And definitely looks like Ohio Governor Mike DeWine called the situation at the southern border untenable, and the Biden administration's immigration policy a total failure in a tweet vowing to back Texas in its standoff with the feds. So it does look like we're having a lot of people that are definitely coming out to the defense of Mr. Abbott, Governor Abbott, in there in Texas. It says, actually, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders tweeted, "If President Biden won't defend us, states will have to defend themselves. Arkansas stands with Texas." And even Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin wrote on X, "The Biden administration continues to refuse to secure the border. Virginia supports Abbott and Texas' constitutional rights to defend itself." So, got a lot of these states dividing up in that case and all along those lines. So, it'll be interesting to see people's reactions. I see I've got Lee Newton Rhodes. Maybe he's got some reactions as well. I'll see if he jumps on since there's nobody else on the party with me and all along those lines. But definitely a lot of conversations going around the notion of migrants and what's going on with the migrants and all along those lines. So definitely a lot of conversations there, and we'll see what happens if there is any other things that are happening that folks might be interested in that regards. And like I said, see that I've got Lee Newton Rhodes, and he might have some comments, maybe even just in the verbal comments and all in that space. So I don't know if Lee's got any thoughts around this notion. I think we were talking yesterday about states' rights and all along those lines, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of states, GOP states, that are thinking that they can go against the federal government. So, Lee, any thoughts around that? I don't know if anybody else is going to join us, but I did see that story, and I didn't know if you had any thoughts about that. Yep. Lee's still trying to get himself together, so we'll see if he jumps in on the conversation later on. No, there's Lee. How's it going, Lee? You're on mute.
Yeah, let me get on it. I'll be right back in 2 minutes. Let me just go on the desktop. It's much better, okay?
No problem. I'll continue with some other news while you get on the desktop. And he's going to number of these things. He's on his desktop now and everything. But it looks like we could be having some interesting political developments. Like I said before, it looks like all but one of the Republican governors are backing Mr. Abbott. So
good morning, Mark. I just want to make a comment. I'm not going to mention names. You could figure out who it was. The other day, I couldn't join, but I was in the chat, and I made a comment about this, how Texas has to enforce the law because the federal government won't. And a member of our panel said, I'm not even going to respond to such comments, whatever. In other words, they belittled my comment. But now we see how many others agree with what I was saying, that the federal government, they're absent. Not only are they absent at enforcing immigration law on the border, but just the opposite. They're against it. Texas wants to do it for them, and they're saying, Texas, no, you can't do that. That's our job. And even though we're not going to do it, we won't allow you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it could come down to like, and I think that's part of our conversation yesterday. I think that you definitely had some questions.
I'm sorry, Mark. So my point was, someone can disagree with me,
right?
But to say, you have no right to speak up because I disagree with your opinion, especially when my opinion has so much validity. It's in the courts now, and all these governors are joining in on it, and all these citizens are very passionate about it. This is why I think there's a breakdown in society, because people don't even want to listen to the other.
Well, I mean, even Jatobia said that sometimes there's this otherism, and people don't necessarily want to hear the other side. And a lot of people have even brought that up. I think I brought it up, and some people thought that it was unusual that I brought it up. But even from the left side, AOC even made that similar argument, because she was saying that she enjoys having some debates and even finding some common ground with somebody that is on the opposite side of her. I believe the guy's name is Tim Burchett.
How can you not, if you don't engage people, at least understand, not necessarily agree with them, but at least understand where they're coming from?
Yeah, you have to have an honest debate and honest discussion, and all along.
To censor and shut down, I don't think is productive.
Yeah, and
it's basically saying, I can't defend my views, so therefore I'm not going to listen to you. That's the way I take it.
That's the way some people would take it and everything. And like I said, individuals that might have more direct interest in Texas or know more about Texas, that might have been why they made those remarks. And I don't know, because I don't know why they said what they said, and they would have to tell you that themselves and all along those lines. I do know that when we were having that conversation yesterday, part of the conversation, I think you're the ones that brought it. You might have been the one that brought it up, with this notion of how far do states' rights go and everything.
It probably was me.
It probably was.
I'm probably guilty. Yeah.
How far do states' rights go, and all along those lines? And this could be something that could test that. I mean, if you're talking 25 states, and if they're doing that much backing and all along those lines, I mean, I hope that it doesn't get to that point of view and everything. But if there are 25 states that are saying
and growing, it's basically telling the federal government, you guys blew this one big time.
No, but not only that, but I mean, state rights and the rights of states to do what they wanted to do, and all along those lines was, in my understanding, I don't claim to be a total historian, but that was part of the reason, not all of the reason, because slavery was definitely part of the reason behind the Civil War. And 25 states would be about half of the state. So I don't know, and I'm not hoping that we're heading that way and everything. But if you've got states that are saying that they will stand by Texas and everything, are we possibly heading into a newer Civil War and all in that line? And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know math, and 25 is half of 50, and we got 50 states. So definitely that could be where some people may be wanting to go, and could be even heading. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but it could be interesting depending on how passionate they are about.
I think there's a lot more states that would sign on, but they haven't. And the reason I'm saying that is because, like, New York City initially said, bring them on, we're a sanctuary city. And now as immigrants start coming here, flooding them, Mayor Adams says, wait a minute, not so quickly. We can't handle this.
Right. And I mean, and that's a whole other matter as to when one state decides to ship them to the other state, and then they do tit for tat with the Democrat.
But it's only fair, Mark, because if you're in favor of policy, but part of your policy is, but not in my backyard, then you're not really in favor of that policy.
Well, like I said, and I don't know because I mean, New York is a state that people go to because of the Statue of Liberty and all along those lines. And there have been some people that have even talked about the difference of the ways that certain groups are handled versus others. That was part of the whole Cuban versus Haitian debate going into Miami and everything. So I mean, I am one that believes that there got to be fairness across the board. And I mean, you got some people that
All
would
your
say,
points are valid, but that should be taken up with Congress, not taking the law into your own hands and ignoring that.
no, I definitely agree with that. And like I said, there's even some people that have some concerns, even though there might be some people that are in favor of it, of the whole notion of the H1, things that are called H-1/2 visas or something like that. But they're the ones that a lot of the allied nations like India and people like that use to come over, and it's treated differently than, say, a regular visa. So, I mean, just the whole visa immigration.
Those are all valid discussions we could have, but the way
Yeah.
it's now to open borders, I think is idiotic and destructive.
Yeah, and like I said, and depends on how open it is and all in that space. I mean, a lot of the other thing that goes on, even in Texas, and I know this from having some friends in that area, is that a lot of the jobs that are let over and everything are jobs that are not necessarily jobs that the folks in Texas want to do, and sometimes they're not. They're even some of the institutions and some of the corporations are encouraging them as well. So I think we've also got to be fair if we're going to have that discussion, and if it's going to be a congressional discussion, that they figure out what the corporations are doing as well, because there are some farming multinationals that are literally letting some of those workers come in, and they know that they are coming in illegally, but they can't find the other workers to do it for them, or they are doing work well for them, so they're not really questioning, and in my understanding, in some cases, actually going and helping them get over here and everything. So that's a whole other matter. Is how
there are a lot of people complicit. You're 100% right.
So there's a lot of complicity, and some of that could be from the corporations, including the farm corporations and everything. Were you surprised? And I mentioned why I wasn't surprised, but were you surprised that Donald Trump does not want to be the presumptive nominee? And we do have Sasha Starr and Jacoby joining us and all along those lines. But were you surprised that he did not want to be the presumptive nominee? I kind of made the argument that he's always campaigned about being not an establishment politician. So if the establishment is backing him, maybe that's why he doesn't want to take this role and all along this lines. But what is your thoughts? Because they were saying, look, we'll go ahead and make you the presumptive nominee. You'll be the candidate. You'll be going against Biden. And now he's coming out and saying, not so fast. I don't want to.
You mean they want to cut the primary short? Is that what you're saying? I'm not familiar with that.
The presumptive nominee basically means that all the Republican power goes behind him and everything, and they basically declare him the winner.
I think it's looking like that. I didn't get it. Sasha, you go.
I'm surprised. Even before the nomination process is over, so
Yes.
even if there is only one person challenging him, and it's going on, she didn't withdrew her nomination. So the process is on. So how can say that he is presumptive nominee? What does it mean? It's incredible.
Well, he didn't want to do it because after Nikki Haley, well, my assumption is that because of Nikki Haley not dropping out under the after the New Hampshire primary, he went out and stated in his speech, and he was complaining, and he wants to embarrass her. That is their whole thing now. They want to embarrass her in South Carolina. So I don't think, because of the messaging, the presumptive nominee, I don't think he wanted to accept that, because now the way Trump works is he wants to embarrass people and have them grovel. Look at what he did with Ted Cruz.
Jacoby?
Look at what he did with all the other individuals, Tim Scott and so on.
I think there's something here we both agree on. I don't think it's productive for someone to embarrass someone. That should be a driving force in public. So I agree with you on there. But why is she staying in if there's no road to victory?
She's probably I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think I completely agree. It's not productive, but that's Trump. That's what he does. to everybody, to anybody that he deals with. I mean,
I think there is a value of Nikki staying on.
and the only reason I think she's staying in is because I do think she believes that she has a path. She has a ton of money saved up, and because of she believes that she's gaining momentum. That's the messaging coming from it. And there is a voice that she is speaking for, because there are a lot of conservatives that do not want to line up behind Donald Trump. A whole lot of them. Yeah. I mean, they're more, ironically, there are more Democrats willing to vote for Biden than Republicans willing to vote for Trump at this moment. Because if you look at what came out of the primaries in New Hampshire, because Trump had Trump had 50 some odd, he had 54. Haley had 50 or 43. Biden had 69, 70%. And the next challenger had maybe about 20 some odd percent. So it's
Mark, I'm sorry I was late. I couldn't get here. I'm meeting I'm actually on my way to meet the First Lady today. She's coming into Raleigh. So I'm going to meet her real quickly. Not bad. Kamala, the president and Vice First Lady in 1 week. So I feel I'll give a shout out. But real quickly, I forgot to open up today. I'll be opening up on Monday, but I did want to just take the console for a second and wish everyone a happy India Republic Day. Today, India adopted their constitution to become a republic, and we want to talk about that. It's an important day in India. Most of the nation is off, and we're going to talk about that. And one thing I want to say is that I'm really kind of shocked that the economic news coming out is very positive. That we're looking at 3.3% growth. Unemployment is lower than it's been in a long time. Inflation is coming down. Manufacturing jobs are coming back. I mean, we're seeing that in North Carolina. Yet Donald Trump is convinced a majority of his base that America is a disaster. And it's very scary because people are believing it. I don't think things are that bad. Could they be better? But it's just amazing. I don't know whether you all think it's a failure of Biden in conveying his successes, or is it just people are going to believe what they're going to believe? But economically, I think it's official. We're not going into a recession, and a large part of that is the trillions of dollars of investment that Biden made in infrastructure that is helping create jobs and eventually. So I don't know.
Steve, how's the housing market?
What?
How's the housing market?
Housing prices continue to rise. Sasha Starr, go ahead. Sasha, you have a business perspective. So.
From business perspective, I want to mention that well over $6 trillion in the United States are in the money market funds, which means basically like a saving equivalent of saving accounts. They're earning a little bit of interest and nothing else. And all this money are waiting on the sidelines, the start of lowering interest rates. It's going to happen, if not April, May, so June, July, whatever. It will happen probably by the end of first 6 months of this year. So once that process will start, and it's not just one single lowering interest rates, it's a series of minimum 3 and maximum 6. That's what people think right. Going to confirm one way or another. But even 3, this is very significant, and 6 even more so. So I want to mention that the stock market will go to much higher heights there where it's at now, and it's now not doing so shabby. It's really progressing very nicely, and not just leading Magnificent 7 stocks, except Tesla. Disappointed yesterday with their report, but that doesn't matter. All other 6 are joining, and there are several other companies who are very close to this Magnificent 7. So there's enough reasons to believe that the American economy is doing really well. On the other hand, Trump wants American economy to collapse. He wants stock market to collapse. He wants to wipe out the 401, all the American savings. So he will say, oh, look, What's happened with Biden? Look, we are now in a very bad shape. Elect me as the president, and you will see what we are going to do. You know what? Stock market in US and the economy will not go down, and Donald Trump can only dream ever about becoming a president of the United States or any other country. It's just not gonna happen. Because I'll tell you, I was very carefully listening to comments about this two process in specifically in New Hampshire. What they've discovered is, with interviews or so on, is that people, Republicans who were voting for Nikki Haley, they almost all of them just passionately hate Donald Trump. And the only reason they were for Nikki Haley, even if they wouldn't agree with her on all her points, they just hate that name, Donald Trump, and they will never vote for him. That's why, with independent in play, I think he's doomed in general election. He will probably get maybe 5% of votes.
I mean, you're right, Sasha. It's from what everything you pointed out, because they even talked about how even in Iowa, there were polls done, and they were talking about how the individuals that were voting Nikki Haley were splitting for Biden over Trump if Nikki Haley was not there. Also, they pointed out the college educated and the more educated independent were breaking heavy for Nikki Haley. And those individuals are the same ones that break heavy for Biden. So Trump really, and I think that's another reason why Nikki Haley is staying in it, because there are cracks in the Trump's base. However, everybody from the Republican Party is trying to coalesce around him for a multitude of reasons. Mitt Romney wrote a book, and they did an interview about it. And for example, Mitt Romney, in that book, it talked about the impeachments that were going on and how people wanted to rely on the courts. The reason they were doing that is because they felt threatened, because there were threats upon their lives. So they took it out of their hands and relied upon the courts. And now you have this individual who is being a bully, and like I said he wanted to embarrass Nikki Haley and wanted to do all these particular things. So there are problems from this bully, in a sense, that Nikki Haley is trying to stand up against, and she's staying in the race for. And I think, what Sasha has pointed out, there are cracks. However, Trump is still going to be the nominee because everybody's going to coalesce around him. And
but let's face it.
Economy, by the way,
First, there is one point why Nikki Haley has to stay in the race, because it's almost inevitable that Trump will be indicted in one of these processes. So the Republicans, although it's not Republicans, it's a party of Trump, but at least they have to be fair to their electorate. So if he is indicted and he is convicted and he is a criminal finally, so they have to have at least one reasonable choice beside him, and that choice now, by default, is Nikki Haley. Because if it's not her, then what Republicans are going to say? Well, look, here's our nominee, Donald Trump. He's convicted. He's a criminal. So on, but listen, we don't have anybody else. Is that the play? Do you think they will win election with such a play? Never.
Well,
in terms of the economy, by the way, just to point that out, by every economic measure, of course, from the economists right now, the economy is looking great. It surpassed every prediction last year because of all the ideas that everybody put out in the beginning of 2023. It skyrocketed, blew those out of the water, and it's actually still going really well by every economic measure.
But also, let's look at one thing I said on the radio yesterday that's interesting is that I researched is this was a big win for Donald Trump in New Hampshire. I mean, the only person to win New Hampshire and Iowa in recent history was John McCain. Mitt Romney came close. And the only person to get over 55% was Ronald Reagan. So what's really strange is that he's done so well with Republicans, but in the general election, I don't know whether he's going to be hurt because of, the Republicans that don't believe he's the choice may not come out to vote, independents, Democrats that just said, well, we're going to do, or is it going to be a low turnout election where the American people just don't want to come out and vote because they're not inspired of who's going to become the president? But at the end of the day, I just don't understand how, with all these now, if he's ended up convicted, different, but nothing's sticking to this guy. I mean, they're just.
Hold on a second.
It is a cult. It is a cult behind him.
Yeah. Hold on a second, because I know that Lee had brought up some points in the chat and all along those lines. So I didn't know if you wanted to jump in because you definitely come from a
as much as we're discounting Trump and why people might support Trump or not. I mean, I defer to Jamie Dimon from a business standpoint. He's much more informed than I am, and he's saying don't discount Trump so quickly on the economics, on the immigration, on trade, and on a lot of issues that he feels Trump got it right.
And, well, the problem with that, Lee, for example, right now, if we all here can say the border is at a crisis point, right? We can all agree on that. I mean, I think we can all say yes to that, correct? Mm-hmm. Problem is, Trump said don't actually solve the crisis. He literally has told people to not negotiate. He told the House Republicans to block it, and we'll fix it next year. So really, is it a crisis to him, or is he does he want to fix it, or does he want the glory? Trump literally said, as Sasha has pointed out, the economy needs to collapse. So are we to say, hey, let's trust Trump on the economy because he wants it to collapse? Let's trust Trump on immigration because he wants a crisis at the border. For every Republican who is yelling, conservative, libertarian, and everything, everybody who is on that side right now yelling that the border's a crisis. Yet you have Texas blocking Border Patrol from doing their jobs. So they can't do their jobs. They can't process people. But yet Texas, Greg Abbott is yelling, the federal government's not doing their job. Well, you're blocking them from doing it, so they cannot do it. Literally, the GOP will not negotiate and sign a deal because Trump said we want a crisis at the border, and we'll fix it next year. So you cannot. So how am I to trust a man who wants these things to fail and want these things to crash? So I don't care what Diamond says. Don't trust. No. What he's doing is the same thing that the Republican Party does, is push out messaging that people fall for. It's a con. That's all it is.
And I want to mention something very quickly.
Go first, Josh.
The same man, he is making, or his company, JP Morgan, is making billions of dollars for sure. And they have a fantastic report just a few days ago, and they're still doing very well. And if that is happening under Biden's guidance, he should at least acknowledge that our company is doing fantastically well, and thank you, Mr. Biden. That's what has to come from his mouth. Instead, he is playing game with all these MAGA people and so on. It's a very, very, very shameful behavior.
Jacoby, you brought up Texas and Greg Abbott and stuff like that and the feds. Do you think Texas is wrong in this issue?
Yes.
Are you realizing that more and more states and governors are jumping on the bandwagon and supporting the Texas thing in the courts?
Lee, is the border just on Texas?
No, of course not.
So you're saying that each state should be able to control an international border?
Their state border.
Or should states control international regulations for the U.S.? Or should the federal government decide international relations?
Congress makes the laws, and when let me finish the question. You can interrupt me later. Let me finish the question. Okay, Congress makes the laws. Okay, the federal government, executive branch, is supposed to execute them. Immigration is big on the list. It's under the purview of Congress. So when the federal government says kiss off, we're ignoring your laws that you passed. We're not going to enforce them. Wait a minute. Let me finish the question. And Texas says
you've messed it
you don't
up.
want to let me finish the question?
Go for it. Go for it. Go for
Thank
it.
you very much. So when Texas says by you ignoring the laws, which are the law of the land, you may not like this, but this is the way we work in America. Okay, Congress makes laws. So if Texas is saying if the federal government is not going to enforce federal law, we're going to at least enforce state law in terms of how federal affects us. You guys don't do your homework. Let us do ours.
So here's the problem with what exactly you just stated. One, the federal government is trying to do the job. Texas is stopping them from doing their job.
In your opinion,
it's not an opinion. It's
really.
literally
And what's the beef about with Texas and the 26 governors?
It is just a political game.
You think they're all whack jobs?
You're not listening.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It's a political game.
See,
Greg Abbott is blocking the federal government from doing their job. Greg Abbott is complaining the federal government is not doing their job. How can they do their job if they're being blocked from doing their job?
Why are so many people signing on? They're whack jobs?
Who's signing on? The Republican states.
And therefore,
therefore it's a political game, Lee. You're not listening.
You think the fact that they're 1 second, Sash. The fact that the Republicans they have no.
Ron DeSantis is signing on. Republican presidential person who's running for the president, complaining that the immigration is out of a problem. Also, Louisiana, Republican person who's complaining, oh, immigration is out of the whack. Oh, guess who else? Greg Abbott signing on because you know what? He's literally blocking the federal government from doing their job. And he's not allowing the federal government from doing their job. The House Republicans, where you said Congress makes the laws, the House Republicans are blocking negotiations and actually.
Why would the federal government want to take down razor wire on the border?
Because it's killing people.
How is it killing people? Don't come here illegally.
People literally just died. And
because of razor wire? Because we have fences and a border?
Lee, stop. It is killing people.
How?
3 people literally just died. And Greg Abbott, Border Patrol, let them die.
That's not true, and you know it. They weren't told an hour after the drowning. You know that's not true.
Who's supposed to control the border? When the federal agents tried to get there and help the people, who blocked them? Greg Abbott's people.
So let me hear what Sasha has to say.
Sasha for a second. I have a quick question to everybody because I'm not clear on under what authority a state, Greg Abbott or Texas or anybody else, can enforce a law, especially that the federal government is trying to enforce something. Under what authority? I mean, in Canada, if that would happen, that Greg Abbott would be thrown to jail the very next day because he is trying to oppose the federal government decisions and actions. Under what authority? Who authorized Greg Abbott to do what he's doing?
So actually,
he's the governor of Texas.
Governors actually
governors have jurisdiction over their states.
Governors have the ability
to border. How the border could be a state's affair? It's a federal affair.
Exactly.
100%. The courts call this out right now. I think they get 24 hours. It's going to be interesting.
Supreme Court. It is a federal. It's under federal jurisdiction. So
it's going to be interesting 24 hours, Jacoby. I disagree with you on this one.
It's not a disagreement. You can disagree, but it's a fact. You
have a fact. I have a fact.
That's no, Lee, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. This light right here behind me is on.
You may not be comfortable that people disagree with you, Jacoby. There are a lot of people, millions, that disagree with you on this issue.
Lee, I don't care if they disagree, but it's a fact. If this light is on and I say it's on, it's a fact. You cannot argue that, well, man, it's a little dim, so it might be off. That is we each have opinions. We each have ideas.
Who's responsible for security in your city? Who's responsible for the security in your city, the safety?
That depends on what you're talking about. If there's a war going on, guess who comes in?
And what if they don't come in? Who's
If there's
responsible?
no war, guess
for your
who's
safety?
it's the state. But again,
And
we're
what if they
talking
don't do
about
their
the
job?
international border. We're talking about a border. We're
Yeah,
talking
what
about
if-
a border between two.
You have a house with walls
two
on it. It's just
countries.
right in front of your house. And the police
Lee,
just watch.
you're making an analogy that is worthless.
I'm making an analogy you're not
You're making
comfortable
an
with.
analogy that is worthless.
That you're not comfortable with. Say
No,
that.
you're making an analogy that is
And
worthless to
Texas is being
justify
invaded
some
across the border.
incorrect
And the
bias
federal
that you
government
have
isn't
about it.
doing their job. If they're not going to
Should
do their
every-
job,
I'll go back to the
ultimately,
question
Texas
then.
will call out their
I'll go back
national
to the
guard.
question
They'll
then,
do
Lee.
the job.
Lee,
You don't like
should
that. But that's what's
every
going on. And
should
more and more
every
states
state-
are signing up
should
to it.
every state have different laws dealing with international regulations?
International? No, that's the federal government.
So
When
the
federal
border
government doesn't do their
itself, the
job,
border itself.
they don't
you
sit there
just-
like ducks and
Hold
say,
on,
you know, come
Lee,
on in,
Lee,
come on in.
stop. Lee, you just stated no to my question.
In terms
The
of the
border
law,
is in-
no,
Lee,
Congress
Lee,
makes the law.
stop. Lee, the border is international. The border is not state to state.
It's
So
quasi.
you yourself just
You don't like this,
you
but it's
just-
quasi.
The border is international.
And therefore what?
You stated.
Therefore
you
what?
just answered my question. I said
Therefore what, Jacoby?
you're gonna let me get out the question?
Yeah, you get
just
this one question
stated.
out. I'm going to respond.
You literally stated, Lee Newton Rhodes, when I asked the question, should each state control international laws? You literally stated no.
But they shouldn't sit there like Satan ducks.
You said no. So therefore, the border is international.
Yeah,
The
of course
border
it
that
is.
we're talking about is not state to state. This is
And
not
therefore what?
inside state.
And therefore
This
what?
is an international border.
And therefore what?
You agree, according to the question, that states themselves should not be the ones to make laws about international.
Texas isn't making laws. Congress
It
does.
is. It is.
But they're
Texas is making a law. When you're throwing up an actual razor wire barrier, yes, that's on international borders.
It's also state property.
The
so-
internet, no,
we have
it's not.
lines
No,
across
it's not.
states.
No, it's
We're in
not.
different
Actually, no,
states
it's
now,
not.
Jacoby.
No, it's not. They actually
course it
did it
is.
on international waters as well. So therefore,
What?
it is not states. It is not their property.
So what's state supposed to do? What is Texas supposed to do when they see
Texas
thousands of people coming
Texas
across
is
into their state
supposed
illegally?
to follow the law. Just
I'm
like
asking you a
everybody else.
question.
I am trying to answer it,
Answer
but
it.
you want to argue.
No answer.
Texas is supposed to follow the laws and
I'm
allow
asking From
federal.
a practical standpoint,
I'm
answer my
trying
question.
to answer your
Well,
question.
What are
You
they supposed to do?
remember that Texas sent a lot of illegal immigrants to other states like New
Mhm.
York, like
New York.
Michigan, and some others.
The
So
sanctuary states.
They're
we asked for
allowed
them.
to do that. Okay,
No,
it's a state decision.
they are
They
not.
just forced them to go.
They are honestly, they are not allowed to do that. That is actually just that is basically another political move that Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis did. Ron DeSantis took money from Florida and flew people out of Texas. That
They
is
didn't
breaking the
kidnap
law.
them. They willingly went.
No. They didn't tell them where they were going. They just dropped them off at a place. They did literally kidnap them. That is
Really?
what they did.
How come no one was
Yes.
arrested for kidnapping?
Because we're sitting here in a politics. That's all it was. But you're stuck.
They were
on this
incentivized
idea.
to go.
No, they were not lead. They were just put on a bus and sent somewhere. They did not know.
Why'd they
had
get on the
no
bus, did you,
information.
No, Lee, quite a few of them
they
are
were
living in
still
homeless camps
born.
and in other places, so
What,
they are not always given a great place or a great opportunity. So, like
I'm
I
not
said,
disagreeing with you, Mark, on that. Were they kidnapped and forced on buses against their will, or were they incentivized and they went on there willingly? I'm asking Dr. Mark.
Lee,
most of them, my understanding is that most of them did not
Lee,
willingly
your
just
argument-
go because they wanted to go and everything.
Lee.
They were actually shipped out, is what it amounted to. They were
I think
shipped out, right?
they were kidnapped.
Lee,
against
your argument is
I'm not talking to
tantamount.
Mark Jacoby. Sorry.
Your argument is tantamount to the same thing as,
Mark,
hey,
you haven't scrolled
this
through-
little kid wanted candy, so I let this little kid into this white van. So therefore, it's not kidnapping.
We're talking
when
about
this
adults,
kid
Jacoby.
wanted to go into this white van
We're talking about adults, are we not?
that don't speak the language, that don't know where they are, that are running for help, and they are accepting any help from somebody with a smile that's not actually coming at them trying to take their kids. So
Even
yes,
Jacoby, even if what you say is 100% true,
it
what's
is.
the big deal if they go to a different state? Big deal.
But the bottom line is this, guys, folks, real quickly. I mean, this situation has been a mess.
You
I
just
mean,
want to put the dime, that's
unfortunately,
all.
this one goes in the Trump bailiwick that he's going to be able to use in the campaign because he talked about this when it really wasn't as much of a problem. but now it really is a worse problem than it was, right? And so that's going to play big.
Steve, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying.
Now, Biden, has not, I think. Sorry, go ahead. So
I would like to ask a question. Maybe somebody will answer. During the Second World War, the first part of the process of killing 6 million Jews was that they were transported against their will, or sometimes even their knowledge. They were put into cars and transported to Auschwitz and to Dachau and several other concentration camps. So provided that even if they were not killed there was already atrocity by taking them as the property, putting them in, transporting them.
They were given a choice to get on those trains. Get on the trains or we shoot you. Big difference.
What's the difference? Because in some ways, they are thinking the same thing. These folks from the Latin American countries, you stay here and we will terrorize you, or we'll ship you to.
You're telling me these Republican governors shot people who did not get on those buses?
Greg Abbott has said he wanted to shoot people that crossed the border. Ron DeSantis said he wanted to shoot people if they crossed the border. Donald Trump wanted to have electric fences, alligators and moats, and also shoot people that cross the border. So you tell me, what choice do you have when you have somebody literally campaigning a presidential candidate?
Toby, we have a member of this panel.
Lee, let me finish. You're having somebody campaigning that they want people to shoot you.
I didn't know where you grew up.
On this bus, or
America I grew up in, Toby. Mark probably knows this. I don't know about Steve and Sasha. Sasha's not here. Well, I grew up in a place where there used to be trespassers will be shot on sight. Okay, we have a member of this panel who lives in a gated community. You break in there, I'm sure they're not going to greet you with flowers and balloons.
So you are advocating to shoot migrants.
Jacoby, someone breaks in your front door, you have a right to shoot people if you feel threatened. Yes.
You are advocating. Listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is not somebody's
someone comes
house.
in the country illegally.
This is not somebody's house. This is somebody seeking asylum, seeking help.
No. That's not true. That is not true. If it was, they would go to the nearest embassy, which they're not doing. They would go to a port of entry, which they're not doing. Don't misrepresent the facts.
Lee, this is a fact.
Avoiding the legal ways of doing this.
No, Lee, this is a fact. Something that you have to accept.
No,
not everybody the people that are seeking asylum, not every embassy is right there in front of them that they can get to. There are places where these individuals are trying to cross the border. Yes. And then you are advocating that you want kids, women, and adults shot.
To do it legally.
Yeah,
there is no legal way to murder somebody.
Hold on a second.
What Mark has to say.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to wrap up. And I think we've only got a few more minutes to go till we go to Ukraine, Russia, and China. But I did have a quick question. Hold on a second. I did have a quick question for Sasha, and it actually deals with agreements and all along those lines, because I just recently saw, and I'm not that familiar with it, but it involves your other country that you're in right now and everything. But I was just wondering if you knew anything about this whole debate between UK and Canada, apparently over the hormones in the beef ban and everything. So this was something that I'd seen in the BBC, and I was going to raise it as it is a story that involves Canada. So I was wondering if you were following this story and any thoughts that you might have, because apparently they are not going to be trading with Canada now, the United Kingdom, because of these hormones in the beef.
Well, I don't think that I'm the right person to comment on that. It's a historical proportion conflict between UK and Canada, and it will go on for next 200 years, perhaps. And but to tell the truth, I don't care about it one way or another.
Fair enough. I was just wondering, because I saw there was a big story coming out of the BBC. They were big on it and everything.
Mark, there are those who don't want to eat tainted meat, and if it's not being labeled, then I understand that.
Right, and there are those that are not fans of hormones in their beef as well, because there's some people.
I believe milk is labeled whether it's hormone or not, in terms of the cows.
Right, that is true and everything. So that could be the case, and we'll find out more about this story as it develops and all along those lines and everything. And it looks like speaking of England, it looks like King Charles III is having some health issues because he's arrived at a London hospital for treatment. And I saw recently that I think it was Prince Charles or one of those princes that was named an aviation pioneer. I didn't realize, I knew he was a pilot, but I didn't realize that he was an aviation pioneer. But apparently that is something that he is doing and everything. And the other question I was going to ask, and just among the news items that I had earlier, is our thoughts about other countries going to countries to deploy their police into other areas, because this came up ironically out of Kenya, because the Kenyan court blocked the police deployment to Haiti, because I think Haiti was asking for some additional help, and they probably were asking from Kenya and other African nations and other nations in general. And the Kenyan court said, no, that's all right. We got enough problems, and we're going to block the deployment of the police force to Haiti. So I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts about this notion of countries, because I mean, we even see it with UN groups where they will be police forces and forces in general, including army forces, they come to these different countries to aid them, sometimes in humanitarian ways, sometimes just to help them enforce what they cannot enforce themselves. But I was wondering anybody's thoughts on that, because I did see that.
Mark, what you just mentioned, I understand military, yes, but local police, that I've never heard of.
Yeah, they were going to send their Kenyan police to Haiti, and they had been asked to send their police, and they blocked it. The Kenyan government did. It wasn't military, but yeah, military has gone several times. But this was actually the Kenyan court blocked the police deployment to Haiti. So I guess Haiti asked for them to send some police to back them up.
Well, it's time, folks. Want to thank you all for being with us today. Happy Indian Republic Day. We're talking about that next week. It'll be still a lot of celebrations. We're going to talk about the Indian economy, about Davos. I fell a little bit behind on that. And of course, I'll tell the First Lady hello for you. And see the way we can bring on this platform sometime. Thank you.
Take care, Steve. Enjoy your visit.
Be safe.
Yep. Well, we're getting on out of here, and we'll have another exciting show on Monday. So we'll be back Monday with more exciting conversation. Right now, we're going to go to Haiti. I mean, not Haiti. I said Haiti, but getting ready to go to Russia, Ukraine, and China, and see what Sasha's got to say about that.
Jacoby's downfall is he's too agreeable. He's thinking too much. He's too easy to convince.
Exactly.
You got to work on that.
I agree.
Got to work.
I agree.